Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Quintessential Listening, Poetry Online Radio and YouTube Podcast, streamed live from the heart of Washington, D.C. Here, you'll find a portal to vibrant voices, echoing souls, and an ongoing celebration of the extraordinary power of language. So, prepare yourself to join host Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram and his special guests as they explore traditional and spoken word forms of poetry.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight on the podcast, I'm excited to welcome Skaja Evens, a Virginia-based writer, publisher, and artist. She runs Motors Audax Press, and her works have been in a number of different literary magazines. Skaja's debut book, Conscientia, veritatis, explores themes like love and resilience. It is now available on Amazon. So as we dive into the compelling world of words, help me welcome Skaja Evens. Hello.
Hello, Michael.
Hello. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Okay. I'm
Thanks
well
for
too.
having me on the show again.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
That's quite an accomplishment. Quite an accomplishment. So I'm glad you're here that we can talk.
It's still really surreal. It's super surreal to have something in print like this.
Tell me more about the surreal. What does that mean in terms of your book?
Oh, I touched on, when I was on your show last year, I touched on how I've been writing for like a large chunk of my life, and I've self-published little chapbooks when I was in college, and I've gotten a variety of publication online and in different places, but you have a physical product with an ISBN number and on a website like Amazon where you find everything. And then to have it in my hand and knowing that was something that I created and I did a large chunk of the production with it. It's still kind of so interesting to wrap my head around. And I imagine it's like that with any type of new art that someone does, like when they first hold that finished product and the culmination of all the effort and the time.
Well, I commend you 100%. So what inspired you to create this particular poetry?
When I first picked up the pen again, as it were, in 2022 and started writing, I went back and found some of the poems that I had written in years past and was sharing them. And I had met another writer, you know him, Patrick 2 years ago, and we started talking. We met and talked over writing and music. And when I started showing him my work, he encouraged me to submit places for publication. And then we started, like at some point, a book, which I thought about, but the more I talked about it, and I started putting one together. And it took I guess longer than I thought, but also maybe not as long as I thought. There's that weird construct of time. I just wanted to share stuff. Yes. Like much like how I like to share other people's words as a publisher, being able to share mine as a writer.
Yes.
It's just such a really amazing feeling.
Well, I've yet to publish one. But the way that you described the feeling was really, really beautiful. So I want to thank you again. And congratulations. You deserve a bouquet of words because of your new book. So let's continue this journey. The title itself. Now, when I read the title, I was like, wow, what is this? Conscientia, tell me about it. What compels you to title your book such an intriguing title?
Conscientia veritatis It means awareness of truth. And not diving too deeply into it, I have the word conscientia tattooed on my arm, and one of the touch points for me is being aware and observation. And a lot of my writing, while it does touch on my life and helps me process things, it's also just kind of an awareness of what the bigger world is around me, around all of us, really, and the truths that come from that, people living their truth. I shared the book with a relative, and she had asked me about it, if I was in a character in a lot of these pieces. And a lot of them are me processing parts of my life, but they're also written from a viewpoint of someone who's looking at the world and how I see it and the truth that comes out of it for me, like what I find to be true for myself.
Well, two things. I'm sure by the end of the program I'll pronounce it correctly. And secondly, the cover itself, did it authentically represent what you wanted to represent in terms of the essence of your poetry, the integrity of your vision as an artist, as a poet?
It does. And it's a beautiful cover. The front and the back together are beautiful. Again, John Patrick Robbins, he does the covers, and when he first presented me with the front cover, and I was just stunned because it's like a stark contrast of looking at the world. It's not all hearts and rainbows. There's a lot of grittiness.
Yes, which is life. So what do you write about, my friend? What do you write about? What are some of the predominant things?
Relationships, love, grief, grieving process, the world, how I see things, some social commentary about the way the world is, and how I wish it wasn't that way, or wish things were different for people. A lot of it is just me processing stuff. It's how I deal with things. Yes. But I discovered over time that me sharing the truth of my life helps other people not feel alone, because they'll see someone else, they'll see me, for example, sharing my struggles with things like mental illness, relationships, trying to be connected to people, especially the way the world is now, where we all got so disconnected with the pandemic and everything.
Yes.
And knowing that someone else could look at what I wrote and realize that there's someone else out in the world who understands things. That's helped me read other people's work and find that connection. Ultimately, I'm just a seeker of connection.
So what nuance do you believe distinguishes your work from others? What else do you bring to the literary landscape in addition to what you just shared? Anything else that makes you, Skaja Evens, stand out from these millions of people out there?
There may be a lot of people who have had similar experiences that I've had, but no one's experienced the world exactly the way that I have, because no one else is me.
Very nice, very nice. Everyone, we're here to hear Skaja's work. Skaja, please share a set of poems.
Oh, share some poems. My favorite part of this. Mm-hmm. All right, this very first one is called A Quick Question. How do I leave it all on the page? And let me back up for a second for anyone listening. I have zero issue saying the word fuck, so if you have a problem with this, I am sorry in advance. But not really sorry. So this poem is called A Quick Question. How do I leave it all on the page? When it'll take a metric fuck ton of dynamite to bring down the wall. And here I am, without a match. This next one is called Blunt Lessons. skills from unlikely sources, some starker than others. The strongest lessons coming from those with challenging circumstances. I found it difficult to learn from anyone that never had to face adversity, didn't have to hustle at some point to keep food on the table or a roof overhead, those that didn't have to wonder if things would ever improve. I want those in the liminal spaces that navigated the underground, that know how to see in the dark and can find light in the most unlikely places, those who speak the truth and give voice to the silenced, finding strength to keep moving forward, even when hated by the bandwagoning masses. This next one is called A Moment Frozen. The person I become when I'm with you. Silly, naive girl believing that if I love you enough, that you'll be who I think I want. We are dangerous, toxic in glaringly obvious ways that are best seen from a distance. The self-awareness I cultivated for other reasons offers a lifeline out of the labyrinth. I tell myself that I'm done sacrificing myself, pretending I'm not riddled with tiny paper cuts, the aftermath of your words. I'm twisted in knots as I carefully consider my words and how to dance within the landmine-ridden framework that is you. I patch myself up with tears and self-loathing, and some perverse belief that since I've been mistreated for so long, what's a little bit more? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, if you believe the cliche. Do all of the good things make up for the weight of regret? Like the cheating man promising his mistress that he's going to leave his wife, I swear someone crossed their fingers when looking for the faintest glimmer of hope that waiting it out will make things better, make things worse than misery. What's more likely is years of a frozen moment in time, years lost because of acceptance of what we wanted wasn't good enough, that we thought we deserved, called void. The place of darkness just past the edge. It scares so many to think of it. I live there. I stand outside my life, like a stranger. I'm a reflection of what I see in this world, a mirror. I don't intentionally attempt to go the wrong way. Maybe I do, when I'm trying to make a point. I try to cry it away, or cut it away, or poison it to death, but someone dies in my place. I start the action and pass the cup. I understand more than most people think I do. I have to help the people who live in the void with me but can't handle it yet. There are a few like me. I prefer it that way. This world cannot do what the edge does. Let me be myself. When I can do that, I can touch those who would become lost. I become immortal. And this one is called At the Risk of Repeating Myself. A byproduct of being ignored, invisible, dismissed, and having a differently wired brain. I tell you the same thing over and over, not grasping at that moment that you probably already heard me. But much like I must have the receipt in hand to prove the purchase occurred, the proof of acknowledgement shows me that my words were received. I learned early the overcompensating value of a disclaimer, and the gaps in memory of whether what I'm about to say was something you've heard, or if I had said it to someone else. So, at the risk of repeating myself, I'll tell you again. Then perhaps remember that I did. That's the end of that set.
Wow. Would you mind sharing that last one again? They all touched me, but that particular one took me to another place.
The last one I read?
Yes.
Okay. At the risk of repeating myself. A byproduct of being ignored, invisible, dismissed, and having a differently wired brain, I tell you the same thing over and over, not grasping at that moment that you probably already heard me. But much like I must have the receipt in hand to prove the purchase occurred, the proof of acknowledgement shows me that my words were received. I learned early the overcompensating value of a disclaimer and the gaps in memory of whether what I'm about to say was something you've heard or if I had said it to someone else. So, at the risk of repeating myself, I'll tell you again. Then perhaps remember that I did.
I mean, you talk about empathy. I was there with you. I was walking beside you. Well, actually, I was walking in front of you and behind you because I understood so well. So, during the selection process for each poem, how did you navigate the personal significance that each poem holds for you? And I guess what I really want to know, how did you honor the dignity of your creative choices in this particular set of poems in your collection?
For as odd as it sounds, I picked pieces that kind of scared me a little bit. There's a deep vulnerability in sharing anything that someone creates.
Yes.
And some of the things I touch on, I don't talk to about I talk to a lot about with anybody. There's maybe a handful of people that know about some of the things that have happened in my life.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your work with me. I really do. I really do.
And everybody listening in.
And that's true. There are 300,000 people who've been invited. So, but it's a small, intimate crowd. I could have seen it out to 400,000, but I thought, let's make it small.
Oh no! It feels a little more harrowing having people that know me and that I know listening.
I understand. That makes sense. So when you think about organizing the poems in the book, tell me about that process. What did you consider? I mean, in terms of themes, the styles, or any other factors that helped guide you in the process of organizing those poems?
I put the rights together in a rough draft, and I ran them past the editor, and he took what I had written and mixed it in what seemed to work well. And some of the pieces, of course, got edited out, and after that was done, I found a couple that had been removed I really wanted in there. I placed them back in, and as I was going through my process, I formatted the book, so I got the format done, and then set it aside for a few weeks just to kind of let it percolate, give myself a break. And when it came back, I found a couple more pieces I really wanted in there to kind of like fill it out. I don't know that I would have picked the order of the book on my own, and I say that only because I don't know that I'm really experienced at that part of it yet.
Yes.
Like, you just kind of go for it, and it really helps to have someone who's more experienced to help with that process.
Is the book divided into themes?
Not really. It's a whole conglomeration of things. Like, I have a hard time compartmentalizing myself.
All right.
Because if I turn off one facet, then it's like there's a bit of fracturing, and then I feel like I'm being pulled in different directions. So I just try to like live as much of me out loud as possible. So it's like, as a friend of mine would say, it's kind of dumped out my purse, and here it all is.
So they're not so it doesn't start with your poetic journey from the beginning and moves all the way through your life. It's just
no. As this one was the first book. I mean, I was asked in an interview recently, like, how I chose the pieces. There are some Void I wrote in college, a very long time ago, and other ones I wrote as early as last year.
All right. Please share another set.
All right. So this first one is called Wallowing. Carrying the remnants of a former life, like rocks and pockets weighed down, it gets harder to move, slogging through the mud. One moment it's fine. The next, it's 2 hours looking at your replacement, deluding yourself that you don't hurt anymore, feeling stupidly ridiculous the entire time. Wounds like never healing nicks, blood trickling out, keeping you weak. A life raft on the treacherous sea, taking on water while slowly losing air. How long until you sink? Next one is called When You Stop Looking. Taking a long drink of his whiskey and cola, driving along the winding back roads, I find myself more adventurous with him, a little more reckless. He's telling stories in between songs and we laugh. Him at my reactions to his antics and me at his laughter. Anything for levity in the light of difficult circumstances and the heavy weight of mortality. I've considered leaving so many times, only to strengthen my choices to stay until one of us is gone. Cognitive dissonance ringing loudly at who I should be and who I really am. Good versus bad, light versus darkness, and not seeing the difference between the versions. We hold hands and I feel a comforting connection, trying hard to burn the memories into my mind. There are moments I wish I knew how long I had left, or how much time was left with him. I don't know if I'd dwell on it, anxiously trying to live as much life as possible before it's gone. It seems useless to make that wish. I'm grieving the loss of him while he's still here, and I know I'm not ready for him to be gone. I never thought I'd want someone so much while gluing the shards of my heart back together. Don't know why it's him, why I want things I swore I'd never want again. The very next minute I'm cursing him at how infuriated he makes me, how he prides himself at being a blunt asshole. Maybe he didn't expect me either, and it threw everything sideways. The next one is called negotiation. You can ask for more than what's offered, at the risk of the offer withdrawn, or take it at honest face value and trust the possibilities of evolving into something you didn't know you needed. This one's called foolish futility. You can't fix them. You can't fix anyone else's misery. You can't take away their pain or make anything better. Trying to will only frustrate you. You'll try to be optimistic, offer a bright side. They might even let you in a little, but you'll never know the person behind the pain. They won't let you. No matter how much you care about them, you'll never heal the scars running deep. You'll constantly apologize for things that aren't yours, carrying the heaviness of their turmoil you aren't asked to carry. They might care about you, maybe even say so, but they'll never let you close enough to share in more than a moment's passion. They will only, eventually, destroy you. So it's called fledgling rock. We argued, like lovers often do, looking for a common language to understand what the other one was saying. Both trapped in our own ways, seeking peace, impossible without a drastic change, or reset of an entire life. Raised voices eventually gave way to calm, with space to attempt to explain the unexplainable, infused with moments of levity. Temporary respite before cyclical viciousness, peppered with long, uncomfortable silence as the connection fades away. And that's that.
Wow. Please share the second one again for me.
It's when you stop looking.
Yes.
Okay?
That's the second one.
It's when you stop looking. Taking a long drink of his whiskey and cola, driving along the winding back roads, I find myself more adventurous with him, a little more reckless. He's telling stories in between songs, and we laugh, him at my reactions to his antics and me at his laughter. Anything for levity in the light of difficult circumstances and the heavy weight of mortality. Considered leaving so many times, only to strengthen my choice to stay until one of us is gone. Cognitive dissonance ringing loudly at who I should be and who I really am. Good versus bad, light versus darkness, and not seeing the differences between the versions. We hold hands, and I feel a comforting connection, trying hard to burn the memories into my mind. There are moments I wish I knew how long I had left, or how much time was left with him. I don't know if I'd dwell on it, anxiously trying to live as much life as possible before it's gone. It seems useless to make that wish. I'm grieving the loss of him while he's still here, and I know I'm not ready for him to be gone. I never thought I'd want someone so much while gluing the shards of my heart back together. I don't know why it's him, why I want things I swore I'd never want again. The very next minute I'm cursing him at how infuriated he makes me, how he prides himself at being a blunt asshole. Maybe he didn't expect me either, and that threw everything sideways.
One quick question. Can you hear me still? Okay, fantastic. This is live, so you never, ever know. Are there any poems, you really don't, are there any poems in that particular piece that stand out to you as pieces you are most proud of writing or challenged you the most to write?
Oh, goodness. There was one that I read on your mental health show last year.
Really?
About basically being inside the moment of a panic attack.
Okay. Tell me more. Help me remember.
That one is being dissociative while you're in that moment, but also like trying to explain it. Mm-hmm. I have the perspective of someone who has learned how to be able to describe what's going on while I'm in the middle of an emotional storm. So it looks like I'm totally losing my mind, but I can rationally talk to someone and tell them what's going on. And to be able to capture that idea and have it like really show what it's like to be inside what feels like the longest moment of your life.
I'm just processing what you're sharing. Were there any lines that challenged you? You know, please share if you feel comfortable.
Actually, I'm planning to read that one tonight, so we'll get to it.
Why?
I'm sorry, say again?
Why?
Well, I'm actually going to read that piece.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. You know, I asked that question why. One, I really like the titles of your work. And secondly, I want to know more about the titles. Now, there are different schools of thought. Some believe poems should be titles. Others believe they should not be titles. What is your take on it?
They absolutely should be titled.
Why? There's no why again. I knew it was coming somewhere. I was going to save myself somewhere. Why? They don't call me.
There is value in saying this piece is untitled. I mean, there's some value in that. It truly is untitled. But you kind of look at it as it's a creation. It's a part of me. I mean, I'm not a parent. So I don't have children, but I would imagine it'd be like having children. Would I have a child and not give them a name? You know, if I could say, "Hey, you," their whole life. That doesn't really seem like a great thing. If beyond the title being something you call it, is just it kind of like, I feel like it encompasses the whole piece, whether it makes sense or not. It's what jumped out at me at the time. I often write without a title. It's just the words just come out, and then the title comes later.
Share 5 titles with us.
Oh, 5 titles. We'd appreciate a moment of your time. They say expectation is the root of all heartache. Choice over life. Vibrancy's costume is camouflage. And a note of gratitude.
The third title. Share it with me again.
Oh, I jumped over him. I don't remember which one it was.
That's right. You chose 5 random titles. Okay.
Yes, I did.
Not a problem.
Yeah, but I tell you, if we have room for all 5 sets, you will hear all of them.
Okay. All right. I love it. So again, you talked about the title. What I want to know, who's in the driver's seat when you're writing? The poem, the title, or you? Or a combination of the 3?
I went on to say a combination. Sometimes the words just come out and it's like a floodgate open, and I'm trying to scribble it down on paper or get it onto my phone or onto a computer like as fast as possible. And other times it is sitting there looking at a blank page and like, okay, I gotta write something. Even if it's like horrible, I just have to write something. I can't just sit here and not have something. And it's like a combo of it. And sometimes the title, like I have a few pieces where like a fragment comes out and that would be a really great title for something, a poem or a book or something, or it may end up just being part of a piece. And it's just I just thought this phrase was great, and let me write it down before I forget it.
Please share another set.
I absolutely will share another set. All right. This one is called Trying to Fill That Hole. Nostalgia influences dumb choices, a familiarity that may as well be red glass. You ain't seeing those flags, sugar. It's a momentary bandage from the gaping wound that is loneliness. Afterwards, that hole is a little bigger. We tap the glass on the chance of distraction, where instant gratification can be had at any moment for the price of your dignity. When there's no reason to think that tomorrow might be better. Right now, the bad choice looks pretty good. Packaged as a tall, dark, and handsome mistake. Next one is called Choice Over Life. I saw a picture of myself as a child, 6 years old, innocent. Only a year or so before that first time, I found myself in a compromising position with a boy who told me it was no big deal. My heart broke for her because she felt her body wasn't her own. The last time was maybe a few months ago, nearly 40 years later, when I, again, felt my body wasn't mine. What made it okay for others to decide to snatch away my autonomy, as though I didn't have a high enough clearance to view my body as sovereign, sacred, capable of more than being a breeding ground for lives that ultimately don't matter to those preaching that life begins at conception. I am thankful I never became pregnant, not forced into a position to be an incubator for a life used as a bargaining chip and method of control from other touched men and the women clutching to their coattails, setting the double standard, guaranteed that those in power will always have access to what they deny everybody else. Next one's called In Search of Something. I rejoined a dating app last night. Considering my current options, none seems viable or willing to share affection with me. Everyone's busy with other people, other things. I'll continue to swipe right on most potential suitors as I slowly wither away, devoid of the sunshine and water that would have me flourish, as I am in my too muchness, too brilliant for anyone not wearing shades. I saw a memory last night, a photo of me, recharged and blissful, smiling and momentarily happy, only a year ago, but it feels like 10 lifetimes. I told some friends when the marriage ended. It was probably the end of my sex life. I've been mostly right when I look back at the lineup of mistakes, and the occasional excellent choice was bad timing. Now I know what you'll say, how I'm manifesting that into being with my negative vibes or some bullshit. However, When someone like me, with particular proclivities, finds herself alone, filling that void isn't as simple as saying yes to the next invitation. The next one's called From a Would-Be Suitor. I would totally let you fuck me. No hello, or similar awkward social greeting, dove in head first to let his dick drive the conversation, instantly becoming fodder. Good for you, sport. I'm not interested. What do you want for blatant disrespect anyway? By all appearances, you look like the top of the food chain, exempting you from any modicum of propriety, classic patriarchy. I'm not easily offended. I have to laugh. That's as flag-worthy as you saying your life is drama-free. I took off those rose-colored glasses. I saw right through you. I bet you think orgasms are the most important part. This one's called, They Say Expectation is the Root of All Heartache. It is heartbreaking to know you're good enough to fuck, but not good enough to love. They will appreciate the things you do for them and how you're there to help. But every time you want clarification or more than a breadcrumb that you matter beyond the things that you do or how useful you are, it's crickets. It is never getting a straight answer. It is feeling like you could be replaced with any warm body and it doesn't matter if it's you. You will do things for them with the help that you're happy to provide, yet often feel like that's all you're good for. I wish there was more than there actually is. I wish I mattered more than I actually do. But that look when I first declared love should have been the only clue I needed. It's the end of that test.
You know, I asked you when you were with me before, does it hurt you to write poetry? If not, why not? Update me.
It does.
All right.
And it does because there are a lot of things that I think people collectively would prefer that they just didn't have to talk about or think about.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to be vulnerable, especially when you are in places that you're not sure that it's safe to be vulnerable. I'm basically bearing my soul in those books as much as I could feel comfortable with. And I told you when you first got onto it that I was anxious because I'm reading basically my soul to a bunch of strangers and people who know me. And it's probably the scarier of the two to read to people who know me. Like to share this book with people I talk to all the time. Because there's a lot of stuff that is just, you want to keep to yourself because you don't know how it's going to be received. Because everybody wants to fit in.
That's true. So when you shared your work with the people that you know, what kind of feedback did you receive? If you feel like
the feedback
sharing.
has been, the feedback's been great. It has been it was a little nerve-wracking to send the book to my parents. I haven't actually asked them what they thought of it yet. And I sent it to a family member who, of course, has known me my entire life. And that was a little bit odd, too. I mean, just a lot of my life I don't share with family. Because how do you explain things? Like, how do you put it into any kind of context?
So you've written a book. Now do you feel is writing a book of poetry yourself, some of the poems, maybe all of the poems are autobiographical, is that letting a wall down or freeing it? That didn't make sense. Is that building a wall or letting your guard down? That's what I wanted to say. I'm so mesmerized by your work, I can't speak properly.
It's like putting windows into that wall and like opening the curtain.
Okay.
You know, let people see in. And once you see something, it's hard to unsee it. So like someone could peer in the window and see whatever is there behind that. But I could close the window and just not talk about it.
Yes. Mm. So are you hoping your book resonates with a broad range of readers, or are you targeting a specific population?
Maybe some of A, some of B. Like, I'm trusting that the words, whenever I put the words out into the world, it's submit for publication, it gets published by magazine somewhere or in a book, or I publish it myself, I'm trusting that it's going to somehow make it to people that it will resonate with.
So your book is still written for everyone. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I would say that. And like I said earlier, I've had feedback from people in different parts of my life where I've shared something that's deeply personal, and they've told me that made them feel less alone. Like, someone else is going through this thing that I am also going through. So I know I'm not the only one going through that.
So,
and there's some kind of strength in that solidarity.
Yes. I love talking to you, because what I'd like to know is, if you were to provide guidance, you're standing in a Barnes & Noble, guidance would you give them when they tip your book to purchase before they read it?
Be prepared to feel things that you maybe don't want to feel. I think I talked about this on your show last year, that there were times at one point in my life where I would have this ongoing appointment that I sometimes just didn't want to go to. But when I went, after it was over, it was exactly the thing that I needed. And the reason I wouldn't want to go is, do you really want to excavate these things that are big and scary and messy and make you feel things? There's such a culture of like trying to power through and not feel. And it works for a time, but at some point, those feelings are going to come up and they're going to be forced to face them whether you want to or not. And so, maybe my book is one of those that you sit down and read it, you'll be forced to feel something.
So much to think about. So much to process, to compute in what you're sharing. But again, I'd like you to share another set of poems.
This first one is called The American Dream. It's a damn challenge to not give in. Do not give up either. Trying to keep it together, to appear moderately functional in an extraordinary life in a world that would rather beat you down to keep you beige and mediocre. The exceptional are occasionally revered until they dare step out of line. Then they are forgotten as quickly as discovered, and attention moves to the next big thing. Unless you can be exploited for ratings, devoid of entertainment value, anything for a quick buck. My heart hurts a lot trying to find my own way. I'll never fit into the compartment this world demands of me. The self-proclaimed gurus will sell you something they don't really have, dressed up in pretty imagery, where you too can have the life they advertise for only 4 payments of more money than you'll ever see in a lifetime. Surely your future happiness is worth going into debt for someone else's half-baked opinions. Just give up anything that makes right now worth living, and you'll afford the life of your dreams. While those in power laugh behind closed doors, brainstorming ways to squeeze blood from a stone. So much pain. But so is everyone else, so who cares, right? There are plenty that have it worse than me. Suck it up, buttercup, and fall in line. You're nothing special, and if you can't pick up the slack, we'll find someone else to take your place. Be that machine cog and be grateful for any morsel of happiness. What a joke, yeah? Pay attention to who's laughing. This next one's called Vibrancy's Costume is Camouflage. A round peg trying to fit into a square hole and being sliced to ribbons for trying. I'm suspicious of people who are happy all the time. I have no idea what goes on behind their scenes, so maybe it's presumptuous to see them as pod people. Yet all of the positivity and its toxicity where the focus is on the mind is often infuriating. The power of positive thinking and worrying about your vibe and some law of attraction nonsense is lost on me. I wish I could be blunt. It takes so much effort to wrap up words in flowery language and have a bullet-pointed list of the whys and wherefores so everyone feels good at the end. My mind is fractured, and all attempts to shift my thinking result in feeling extra broken. Be yourself, they say, except not like that. Not like me. The indelibly enchanted magical mermaid buried underneath attempts at normalcy because we all want to be accepted, right? The eccentric is unknown, and the unknown is scary. That pressure to fit in permeates everything. Putting on the appropriate costume for the situation, remembering the script, developing the necessary muscle memory to be acceptable. In the meantime, I'm slowly withering away, becoming a shell of my brilliant self. I hate how much others happily consume my magic without offering any sustenance in return. I hate how I let them. Next one is called Panic Attack. You try to leave, and the demons keep dragging you back. You sit there, still, frozen, waiting for the urge to pass, the ideation of the tiny choice that will change your world. So much time spent motionless. You stop feeling your body after a while. Dissociation is what they call it. Like you're outside yourself, seeing a body you can't feel. In a way, it keeps you safe because you remain still. Harder to make dangerous choices if you stay still. The committee of critics in your brain gets louder and louder. The din becomes a dull roar, then the loudest sounds you couldn't imagine. Everything gets loud. Silence is deafening. But you remain still. You must. You have to. If only to prove to yourself that you're stronger while at your weak, a contradiction. Living inside this moment, each moment, is the strongest thing you'll ever do, until the next moment. Second by second, desperately clinging to anything that will give you a little more time. The moments tick by, the second hand is deafening as the silence it sits within. Everything slows down. Still not aware of your body, that now brings an unexplained heaviness. Slogging through molasses, wearing a lead suit. Seconds seem an eternity, and when you notice the clock, only moments have passed. Every ounce of energy focused on not letting go. Can't let go. Remain still. Wait for the ideation to pass. When it does, and you feel yourself coming back to life, you exhale the breath you've been holding despite having breathed the whole time. The next one's called a full plate. Stretched too thin, feeling like Cassandra, demanding to be moisturized. It's a momentary blip, nothing specific, feeling the noise. Remnants of memories, deflated by expectations, apparently unreasonable, talking over each other in my mind, full of effort to convince me of lies. Brain gremlins chatter incessantly, becoming micromanagement. HOA reps is issuing citations. Clear out those old memories before you dare create new ones. The price paid for buried ignorance becomes the demons that taunt me every time I excavate happiness. This next one is, please appreciate a few moments of your time. I received a survey from the hospital where I'd been taken for observation over my comments during a bout of depression. And some ideation, if I'm completely honest about it, which was fleeting anyway. As I read that letter, I wondered, for what purpose could an honest response be of use? Do people even fill them out, much less return them? The survey asked my opinion about my level of care during the few hours I spent explaining that ideation did not automatically mean completion. Somehow they were convinced, not by my words, but those of a stranger in New York. Let me walk home, alone, in the middle of the night. Apparently, I threat to no one, much less myself. I learned that night words matter, especially when you're morbid. The end of that set.
As you think about your lived experience, your life, did you write this particular book for you or others? You spent a long time pulling it together. Is it for you or the readers?
If I'm honest, mostly for me. Okay. Anything I do, if it helps somebody else, that's awesome. And I'm 100% for that. And I don't know if it's selfish or irresponsible or some other word I'm not thinking of to do this particular type of art for myself, but it's how I process what goes on in my head.
So why would it be selfish?
How dare I do things for myself and not for other people?
There are a lot of people who feel that way, including myself. So I understand.
There's so much, Michael, of the world at large, mostly like the masses of people, not the individuals, but like the masses, that expect people to fall in line, and if you are remotely different in the slightest way, like you're supposed to just shed that or put a mask on it and fall in lockstep. And the best part of being a creative person is to like not do that. Like you can explain away so much. I'm an artist. I'm of course I'm eccentric. I'm an artist.
I want to keep you here forever so we can talk the process. I mean, I really do. So, but I would like to know, and I'm listening to you, what personal discoveries have you made about yourself from writing this book, from putting it out to the public, from allowing other people in the world?
I am I dare say like far more brilliant than I give myself credit for.
Right, I like that. I really do. That word describes you. Tell me more in terms of personal discoveries.
Well, there's this idea of, and you should be proud of yourself. If you've done something that merits praise, of course be proud of yourself, but not too proud. Like don't talk about it all the time, or don't like bring it up when someone else is having a bad day. Like time and place, which I guess I could see that, but in some ways it's people who wish they could do what you do are going to find a way to undermine it. They may not mean to, but it happens. I really wanted to be an artist when I was a child. I wanted to be an artist. And whether my parent realized this at the time, what he was saying, art is not a viable career choice. You'll starve. Now, when I was growing up, he was a working musician. And I'm sure my parents had issues with money. Like, he didn't want to talk about it. But that was kind of his message. And then he told me several years later, a couple decades later, if I had gone into an art form that could make money, he would have supported that. But he didn't tell me that when I was 18. Just like, go and get yourself. And at that point, I date myself, computers were becoming a thing. This isn't in the 90s. And that was the push, like, go into computers, go into something that has a future that you will be able to support yourself. I mean, art's great, art's important, but you can't live on it. And seeing many people who can, it took a long time. It takes time. It's taking more time than I would care to ever admit to unlearn that, unpack that, how I didn't call myself an artist without some sort of qualifier until I was in my 30s. Like I said, I don't know that was ever his intention. But that's the message I picked up. And to call yourself a creative, to choose that as your path. And it's automatically means struggling. Like you're going to go into this and constantly like when you're living off of beans and rice or something, which I mean, is not always true. But you could have that sort of future doing any type of job because of the way that the world is, the way the economy is, without getting into that entire subject. But there's so many people who will never pick up a paintbrush again, who will never write another single word or any other thing that they did because someone that they cared about told them that they should not pursue what their passion was. And it's heartbreaking.
It is. Here's
the
some
very
personal
act of me publishing, the very act of me publishing this book, of having it in my hand, proved to myself that I could do something like this, that I could finish something, and even if it never pays a single bill, somebody bought it. Several somebody bought it, actually, but somebody bought it, and I'm going to get a royalty from it. If I never make another dime on anything I do the rest of my life, I have that.
I plan to buy it.
And a sense of accomplishment that comes from that, I can't even tell you how that feels.
See, to me, this goes back to that empathy. You shared that story, and it reminded me of my own story. I went to college. My dad was always on me about my grades. And once I graduated, told me that he'd gone to college. But he only stayed a semester. He said that he was a country boy, and he didn't know anything about the big city. He had won a baseball scholarship, and he was so happy, but he decided to return home. So to me, if I had known that, when he got on me about my grades, it would be different. You understand what I'm saying? So I never shared my story with him because I felt he wouldn't understand what I wanted to do. So when I heard you share that, and knowing that you shared your poems, knowing that you discussed issues where people did not always support or wanted to support, it's empathy. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I know I'm not the only person in this world of 8 billion people that has come up against some sort of adversity when it comes to their art.
Yes.
Or having someone tell you, in the case of visual art, because I do also do visual art, that's too expensive, or I could do it cheaper, or that looks easy, I could make that. And sure, you take the pattern I use and go ahead and make it yourself. But as I learned this from someone that I know, and I've passed this along to other people. No one will ever bring to your art what you bring to it. So it does not matter if someone copies what you do. They are not you. They will never do it the way that you do it and bring what you have learned, what you've experienced into that thing. Does not matter. Someone can copy your style and use your words. And I know of people who have lifted full copy for things from people and passed it off as their own. And they live with whatever karma comes from that. But they're missing the key ingredient, which is what comes from the person who created it in the first place. Someone else could write what I wrote, but they're not me. They did not live the life I've lived. And how did things go through how I experienced and how I view the world?
I'm going to go back to empathy. Well, I'm going to go back to empathy one more time in terms of poetry.
And I share that with people who are dear to me, who are like doubting themselves, like, other people are doing what I do, but no one's like you. No one's going to bring that magic to what you do.
Well, I was going to share that back to empathy. Our stories are our stories are different, but when I read your work, I can resonate with the feelings that go along with your words. You see what I'm saying? Our stories are different, important in terms of accessibility, that I can resonate with what you're sharing through your feelings. That builds that bridge between us. That's why your work is so powerful. It's well written, it's clear, it's touching, and so many other superlatives. Would you mind sharing 2 more poems before we go?
Oh.
I want to keep you on.
I'll pick 2 of the 5 I have left.
Hey, if you don't mind doing that final set in total, do it. Because I really want to hear it.
Yeah.
I do. I'm serious.
I really want to. I really sat and put a lot of thought into what I chose for today.
All right. Fantastic.
All right. So this first one is called Scorekeeper. You told me I deserved better as you continued to treat me badly. Acknowledgement of your poor behavior, wrapped in a pitiful excuse. You told me I deserved better. Every time you made the choice, showing me I was an option instead of a priority. So many moments in those years, so many chances. No matter the efforts made, we withered and died. Said I deserved better. Realization sharpened. Your idea of my better never included what was best for me. The next one is called Feedback Loop, whilst inside a storm. Broken, ugly, foolish, selfish, stupid, intense, obsessive, failure, bother, burden, bridge burner. Give me some matches and I'll burn the whole fucking thing and bask in the glow. Fuck up everything in the end. Go ahead and cut away. I'm not a nice girl. You delude yourself into believing I am. Put me in another life and who knows what would happen. I feel violent, so I take it out on myself. This next one's called It Felt Good to Scream. I drove away not long after confessing deep truths and sharing stories of fucked up moments. Everything careening towards a threshold moment of simultaneously focusing and falling apart. Shuffling through music to find rawness, songs where everything is left on the stage, same as how a writer leaves everything on the page. I screamed out the sadness, frustration, anger, rage and heartbreak for the me who had to live through pain, deep scarring that will never heal. Best I can ever do is learn to carry it. Hope that it will get easier to bear. On a whim, I found myself with firewater, having a loose plan of shaking things up. Either feel it deeper or forget for a while. Take a break from drifting. Frozen ice flows on a river. Next one is called Separating the Signal from the Noise. There's some value in being alone. No one moves your stuff or steals the blanket when you sleep. But the voices in your head get louder until they settle down when you listen. Out in the world, everything is noise. People talking over each other in futile attempts to be heard. And no one ever paid attention to the man behind the curtain, too busy doom scrolling social media getting a fix. Too busy being palatable to the collective, just so they won't be voted off the island. Scared of being inside this moment, unfiltered, raw, and real. And this last one, called A Note of Gratitude. For all the times I say I would change something in the past, I am thankful for the lessons, the triumphs, the falling, the fear, the exhilaration, for I would not be the woman I am without it. To every heartbreak, failure, joy, success, and those involved. I have not always been an eager student. Thank you for the teaching. That's the end.
I need a couple of hours to process. You know, of course, I asked you to read those poems again. You know what I mean?
You're welcome.
All right. First, I'd like to ask who published your book. I didn't say that in my opening. I couldn't remember. Tell me, who published your book?
Whiskey City Press. and I have been told I have the distinction of being the first woman published by Whiskey City Press.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Hopefully, I'll work with them as well. I don't know. So that's good to know that you. That makes me so happy. How can people purchase this book?
Amazon. It's available in, I guess, several of Amazon's markets, Canada, Great Britain, etc. It's also apparently like worldwide distribution, though I don't know that it's showing up anywhere else yet. So admittedly, I haven't really looked. The book has been out for a month. Actually, the timing was really great. It was a birthday present to myself to have this in hand on my birthday last month. Also, if someone wants it signed by me, they can find me on the internet and request a copy that way, and they can buy it from me directly.
Tell us your address again in terms of your website or where you find you.
Oh, my website. I have a few of them. So my personal website that about me and my publication history is SkajaEvens.com. My publishing branch of things, my press is Modus Adax, MOTUSAUDAX, and then I publish a magazine now 3 times a week. To start recently called Disturb the Universe magazine, and it's at that URL, disturbtheuniversemagazine.com. And then I also have a zine called It Takes All Kinds of Literary Zine, because I've been in the middle of a format change for a while, and I'm still working on it. So it is there. The past issues can be found at Mosadex to be linked in their PDFs on archive.org. Eventually everything will move to the new website once I have it all sorted out. If people are on the Twitter, and I will still call it Twitter despite what it is called currently, you can find me either at Skaja Evens or Modus Adax. And then I also do visual art, which is the Skaja Evens art.
Very nice. Very nice. Skaja.
Yes.
Where do you go from here? What's your next project?
I mean, there's going to be a follow-up book at some point. I'm barely thinking about it at the moment. There's no title. I just, kind of have a document started where I'm just putting things. So this book, Conscientia veritatis, took me about 1.5 years. So I don't expect to see anything new for well into late 2025, I would imagine. But beyond that, I'm focusing on Disturb the Universe magazine. Like I said, we went from 2 days a week to 3 days a week, and so there's a little bit more management with that. And also the word of mouth on that is great, where I'm getting a lot of submissions from people that is like, I saw you on the socials, or my friend recommended you, or you published my friend, or anything of that nature. And a lot of really great work there. And then also the Modus Adax, I'm looking at publishing other people's books. I like to venture into that. Art needs to be out in the world, and God, love the fact that I get to have a hand in that.
I don't know what to say other than we've reached the end of our poetic journey. And I'd like to thank you for sharing yourself. I know that your book was written for you, but I'm claiming it too. Because there's stories in it. There's stories in it that resonate with me. So I feel like it was written for me too.
I'm glad that you feel that way. I think that if people identify even the slightest bit with someone's story, I mean, that's really what the sharing is about. It's shining a light on things that are in the dark. Not all things should be in the dark.
Yeah. Everybody. Skaja, I wish you nothing but the best with your poetic journey.
I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you for having me on the show.
I don't want to end, but we've got to. So I've got to play my exit music, and hopefully we talk.
Well, you know, if you're still doing this when I publish another book, then we'll just do this again.
All right. So to the listeners, I want to thank you all for being with us tonight. And
still craving poetry? Hundreds of episodes of the Quintessential Listening Poetry Online Radio and YouTube podcast are available to listen to or download on iTunes, Spotify, and other streaming platforms. To learn more about this popular podcast or how to become a guest, visit www.qlporyt.com. Till next time, take care and let poetry ring somewhere throughout the land.